Hey, welcome to the Ozzstar channel. I'm Glenn, and on today's fun project, well, I'm going to share with you how my little mascot, Chaos, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you may remember who he is. He's always showing up at the garage, causing problems, causing trouble, and today's no exception. Right here, he's sitting right over here. Let me show you to the people, Chaos, in case they don't know who you are. Yeah, and look at that. He's holding a big, fat Hyundai right there. Yeah, so on today's video, find out how Chaos cost me $100. All right, let me explain to you what happened. So the bike was sitting, it was towards the end of winter, but what I do is there goes a motorcycle now. There it is, look, see, it's motorcycle season, I rest my case. Anyway, every month or two, I'll start the bike up, let it run a little bit, keeps things moving, keeps the fuel fresh in the carburetor. That way, springtime, summer, this is May 31st right now, you can fire it up and get going. So what I did was, took the cover, this is the cover I have, it's one of these indoor-outdoor covers. It's nothing fancy. Now mind you, I've done this a lot, you know, I take the cover off. I usually take it all the way off. So what I did was, I just took it up here by like the handlebars. Now you see how this is covered on the front. Let me aim you down a little bit. There we go. So this was sitting right here. Now here's our headlamp. Well, I reach in, I turn on the bike, fire it up. I'm not gonna do it now because it's loud, you won't hear me. And I kind of smelled something cooking. Well, I was like, maybe some dust on the engine. If you notice, this bike's kind of spotless, so that really wasn't it. What it was, and what it turns out is, next time I took the cover off to just use it, well, here we go. Peeled this back. The cover never got damaged, but the headlamp did. Let me show you what's up. If you look right here, well, let's zoom in. This is a plastic lens, and this entire area right here is completely melted. So I can feel it, it's warped, and you can see it doesn't have the clearness. So right in here, it melted just because of the headlamp. You know, on a motorcycle, a headlamp has to be on when the bike's running because of this cover right here. Sitting there, this is like a nylon material. Just having it sit there, I guess, built up a hot spot. It melted. So we're gonna be replacing that today. So if you've got a Honda motorcycle, a Yamaha, Kawasaki, they're all pretty much the same. It's a cruiser style. So, you know, this is the bucket. This is your headlamp. I wish they made this out of glass. Anyway, there's two bolts on the side on this particular model. This is the Sabre. It's called a Honda Shadow Sabre 1100. It's a VT 1100 C2 is the model. So it's an 1100 cc engine. And what I do is I start by loosening these two bolts. Actually, the first thing you want to do is steal one of your wife or girlfriend's, oops, I just dropped the washer. Steal one of their towels and put that on the fender here. Actually, it's not a washer, there's a little bushing here. Little bushing that fits right in there. So take those two out and that'll get you started as far as loosening this beauty ring. So the whole thing slides forward. You reach in here, let me unplug this sucker. I'll show you in a second how that works if you're not familiar with it. So it's a three-prong. Let me zoom you in a little tighter. There we go. So it's a three-prong right here. Here's the back of the headlamp. And what it is this headlamp has a beauty ring on it. So this chrome piece right here is separate. So we're gonna take that apart and we'll get our new piece in. Let me show you the part numbers right here. I'm not an aftermarket kind of guy. You could find these online. They're like 80 to $100. There's our headlamp number, OEM stuff. That's the kind of guy I am. So anyway, take this out. We'll match it up. We'll make sure it's going to work. So that looks like it. Now in the center, what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to swap over our parts, which is no big deal. So basically, we'll take the bulb, you know, that's gonna go in, and then this framing here, this is for an adjustment, so you can aim the headlamp. These are adjustment screws. We'll just take this bracket off. It's held in there with a few Phillips head screws and move everything over to here. All right, let me start by removing this boot, this like weatherproof boot. and we'll take the bulb out. You just push down, it's spring tension. It's like a standard setup here. You don't touch the bulb, that's a halogen. You don't want to put your oil from your fingers on there, it'll burn out prematurely. So that will go over here. I think I've got it lined up the same. In fact, I'm seeing the part numbers, everything's the same there. So we could do that first. Doesn't really matter, we could do it last. And just bring this on over and lock that bad boy down. Okay, just like that. So that's done. And of course, we'll put the boot on last. And let me take these bolts out right now, or screws. I guess you can call them screws, bolts, whatever you want to call them. And now they have this little, let me show you on the back here. They have this little nut. It's a weird looking nut. So that's screwing into that. This is a little guy. It's got thread lock on it. So we'll take those three out. In fact, I'll put it down here. What I like to do is, so everything's the same here. We got these lined up. I'll put, since this screw came out over here, what I like to do is, put it in that area. So we'll take this one out. Same deal. It's a little tricky. It's easier to take it out than it is to get it started, that I can tell you. So put that one down over here. And if you didn't notice yet, I put down another towel on the bench. Keep everything from getting scratched. We don't need any scratches. People start getting upset when they see a scratch. Oh boy, you start crying. Yeah, that's when chaos starts laughing. All right, so that one came out. Let's turn that over. Put that over there. Now, what we've got here, oh, we got one more at the top. I didn't see him. Here he is. So we've got one at each corner, I guess you could call it. If a circle had a corner, I don't know. You know what I mean. North, south, east, west, we've got a bolt. All right, here's our north one. Get the nut out. I can't wait to fish these in. They're gonna be fun. So with the 4 screws out, now we've got to remove, these 2 springs here for the adjustment for left and right, up and down to pitch it. This one here on the bottom of our left, which would be right side on the motorcycle, there's an access hole through the beauty ring right here. So what we need to do is get our Phillips in there, take this bolt out. Now what you can do is measure the amount of exposed thread, and that'll give you an idea where you were as far as adjustment. Otherwise you'll have to do it by hand. So let me go ahead and unscrew this thing. It's going to take a minute. It's a long threaded bolt, and I'll fire the camera back on. All right, almost there, finally. Woo! That's a good wrist workout. Okay, so that one's free now. There's a little white nut on the back here, so we'll put that right over there. And let's get this thing off now. Should separate. Let's push the bolt through. Come on. It's being feisty. Let me keep threading it out. Looks like it may have a couple more threads there. Hold on. Let's see. Yeah, it's threaded into this part here. There we go. All right. So that's free now. That's the toughest part. So here's our cage, and we're going to transfer that all here to the new one. So let me take this through here. Here's our spring. There's this long John bolt right there. Can you see that one? And it's going to go into this one. So let's do that first. So this is going in here, and then our spring like that. And what I'll do is start threading it all back together. All right, well, here's the old one. I don't know what we can do with it now. It's ruined, it's damaged, but you hear that plastic? Nice, right? It's like a drum. So I've got that nut behind here, just sitting down in there. The north and south ones, we're calling them, have a nut. They're welded to the metal. And then you just go through the black headlamp, you know, the lens itself that we're replacing, and try to find your nut. Oop, there we go. Just got it started. Put some pressure on there. What I do is I get all 4 of them started, and that way it's a little easier. Then we'll snug them all down. So everything's tightened now. Everything's pretty much an adjustment. One thing to note is on the cover here, the little waterproof dust cover, it says top at the top, and that should go in conjunction on the lens. It's kind of molded in, you're not probably going to see it, but right over here it says top. And make sure you're in the right direction when you start doing this job. So you don't want to be upside down, so to speak. So this just snaps on. It just sits on here with pressure. Okay, so with just a Phillips screwdriver, we swapped it on out. This baby's ready to go back in. Okay, so I got the 2 bolts and the 2 bushings we took out earlier. 8mm, I don't know if I mentioned it, 8mm socket. Those are ready to go. What you should do is if you park your bike outside and it gets a lot of moisture, check the connector in here just for any kind of corrosion and stuff. This one's clean, and I think this bike has about 14,000 miles on it. So, and I've only driven it in the rain, fortunately, a couple times. It's no fun driving in the rain. So what I suggest you do is plug it in, and before you bolt everything up, now I do have the top facing up here, reach around, hit the ignition, do the old reach around. I'm gonna have to set it down for a second. That way, if you have a problem, you can fix it now and you don't have to do it later. So turn it on. I think the light came on. Yep, I can see it there. There's a high beam. I don't know if that's coming up on camera, but it's definitely working. So that's good. Shut that off. And I think, yeah, there's a little lip on the bucket here. So what I do is just kind of go on top, lock it in. And then when you tighten these bolts up, you don't need to go ballistic. They're just some small bolts. In fact, I think this housing is plastic back here. This trim ring's metal, this is plastic. So you definitely don't want to tighten too tight. Get them both started. That's always the best way to do it. That way you can get things lined up. Of course I'm in the way, but that's how it goes. There we go. All right, we'll get these snugged up. Just give them a little bit of torque, nothing too crazy. Turn it towards you, there we go. Give it a little bit of snuggy snug. You can put some Loctite on these if you want. If it makes you feel better. I'm not going to, but I definitely don't want to over tighten them. You'll feel it. Don't go ballistic. Okay, so now the adjustment, let me get my Phillips. Show you guys. Sometimes you need a little guy here. Let me grab this. Sometimes the little midget screwdriver is easier than the tall one. So you can get right in here. There's an adjustment screw on those springs I showed you. You know, this right here, that side, and over here on this side. Of course, you have to do that at night. I'll aim it at a wall and adjust the beam. Take a nice clean microfiber towel, get all the fingerprints off. That way you won't have to get laughed at by any other bikers. You won't laugh at your fingerprints. Make it nice and shiny. And I believe we're all set right there. Changing out the headlamp on these bikes is fairly simple. We just had the 8mm socket, a Phillips screwdriver. Most of the Japanese bikes are all set the same. So anyway, it's not a big deal. Chaos, give me my $100 back. That's mine. He owes me the labor anyway. So if you don't know Chaos, now you do. I hope he stays away from your house or your garage. Anyhow, check out some of my other automotive repair videos if you get a chance. Subscribe is always appreciated. Leave me a comment or a question down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take it easy.